Welcome to the Daily Gallop live stream presented by the Daily Gallop, hosted by me, Marshall Sterling. You can find me on Twitter at G1 Handicapping. With me today is my partner in crime with all of this. His name is Spencer Luganbuell. You can find him at handy underscore capper. Spencer, how are we doing today, man?
I'm hanging in there, man. Had a fast start to the day. I think I was 305 for winners. Then I kind of cooled off. Thank God I had a little $50, $40 lead over ADC in the contest. Keep it going here.
All right. That's good. So the contest has been good to you today.
Contest has been very good to me today.
That is awesome for me. I'm going up against Stephen Parrott, Brian McCarthy, and so far I believe I am in the lead by about 15, which is a very nervy lead. So we'll kind of see how the rest of the card goes. I'm hoping we can get chalked the rest of the way, and then that way I can advance into the NIT of the Daily Gallop tournament. Turning to the late pick 4 here at Gulfstream Park, starting in race 9, is a $75,000 listed stake, the Sunshine Fever, mile and a 16th on the grass. There is a hefty field for this. A lot of graded stakes winners. Spencer, who did you like in this race?
So I know we were originally going to talk ticket structure. I looked at the sequence and I was like 4 deep in every race, which obviously is not the proper way to play a pick 4. As I'm also tweeting out this link here for whoever is watching, if you would give us a nice little retweet and a like, and also subscribe and a like on Twitter, because now we're becoming the YouTube people. So let me just get this out real quick. I like Halliday. I just think that this type of horse is coming off of a win for 100K optional claimer. I think that he's also improving with a couple 90s, and he just seems really consistent, along with another horse like the number 9, Social Paranoia. When we're playing contests like this, you're trying to find a horse that will just mostly hit the board, not even win, because you're just trying to go up the ladder against a single person. But these first 2 horses were the horses I wanted to start off with, and then I also did like the 11 admission office, but he's a good graded stake horse. He probably is the class of the field. Just one that I wanted to avoid at a short price today.
Yeah, admission office with Brian, with being trained by Brian Lynch, piloted by Joel Rosario. Second last out in the McDarmida, which was a grade 2, against Zulu Alpha, who has been just absolute lights out on the turf. But the problem with admission office is the distance feels a little short for him, especially because he's going to be closing from the back. But I agree, he is by and far the class of the field. It's just a matter of whether he's going to get the right trip, and and he's it's not going to be easy. He's going up against a lot of up and coming stakes type horses. With Halliday, what sort of trip do you expect Luis Saez to get with Halliday?
Well, Louis always been the aggressive jockey, so I'm expecting something forwardly placed. I know he likes to be on the lead, and it seems you kind of have to almost be on the lead a little bit today for the dirt, not so much for the turf. We've seen a couple come from off the pace. So I expect Louis to be aggressive. I'm expecting something, not first flight, but maybe second flight, not the pocket, because I'm sure he'll probably be stuck a little bit wide, but definitely a horse. Pletcher has one winner already today with the 2-year-old race, which is really nice to see.
Oh yeah, absolutely, and and that was kind of the interesting thing. You have the 2-headed Pletcher monster. You have Halliday with the 6, and you have Social Paranoia the 9, both with contrasting running styles. Halliday likes to be in the lead. Social Paranoia is going to be closing from the back. Do you think that the closing kick of Social Paranoia is going to be better than someone like Admission Office, whom you know is going to be out the back as well?
I think it always comes down to people talk about on the dirt and want speed. Well, it's the exact opposite for turf. You want to be, it's that final quarter closing kick, and it's the class. There's a reason that we don't see 62.5 now more than 2 for the grass. It's usually 20K, 40K and above for New York. I know it's a little bit lower for Florida. It just in dirt you want to find the horse that's going to improve the best. In turf racing you want to try and find the horse that's going to get the best trip. And coming out the back, there's always a chance. Always a chance for something to happen.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we saw a couple races ago. Heavy favorite, just bottled up the entire time. Halfway down the stretch, finally gets open, but by that point, 3 horses had already got the jump on him, and it's impossible to come back from that. My top pick in this race is the 6, along with you, which was Halliday. Just good speed, and he's going to be positioned up front well. Luis Saez is always an aggressive rider, and I feel like the distance hits this horse right between the eyes as well. The price, though, at 9-5 was not what I was expecting in the least bit. So I am not a fan of Halliday whatsoever at 9-5. What would be the lowest price for you, Spencer, that you could take for a win bet with the 6?
With having 3 contenders and him being my top pick, probably 3-1, 5-2, somewhere in there. So I'm not too far off this. It is surprising to see that when you look at the morning line, the top 3 are kind of flipped at this point.
Yeah, agreed wholeheartedly. Another contender for me that I liked, we talked about Halliday. My second choice was Admission Office, Joe Rosario, class to the field. My third choice, 9, Social Paranoia, has really been good on the grass. Second in the Belmont Derby, which was a grade 1. And has just been kind of okay since then. Really showed a nice closing kick in the Appleton. It felt like he was almost taking advantage of a pretty hot pace that day, but he was way out the back and didn't have to win that race against stablemate Sombaye, who has actually turned out to be a pretty decent grass horse so far. And then for me, the fourth choice that I liked in this race, but I really didn't know what to do with. What do you think about the number 7, Hawkish?
It was a throw out for me. I just obviously 2 races back, and even the last race, it's JK's special thing, closing on blue fractions on the grass. I just don't know if he has the right. He won the Penn Mile, but that was a year when obviously way early in Colton, Mississippi, 2 horses who I haven't really heard much of since. They just don't kind of seem to be in the same. And it's always that Penn Mile that ends up getting a weird, good group of horses, but it becomes real quick, real early in the next few races who is going to be good and who's going to be not too good. The blue fractions, the 72 last time out, now the long layoff, and Toner is already 0 for 15. He's awful off this type of layoff.
I know, and that was the biggest thing for me. I think this horse is very talented, and I think that we'll hear from him kind of later in the year once he gets a couple races under his belt. But it was one of those things where he has the back class, and he has back races that do make him a contender here. And it feels like he always finds races that, I mean, let's see here, the last 5 races he's tried closing into blue fractions. So it's one of those things where how many times you're going to give him the excuse that he ran into a slow pace. So he would be one that I would have to include on my B and C tickets. But for me, I only need the 6 and the 11 for my lone A's. Spencer, what do you think your lone A's would be in this race?
I think my lone A's would probably be the 6 and the 9, and then I'm probably going with the 11, which is kind of a punk move because you're kind of using defensively. But this is the other thing, too, is we're talking about this. Oh, there's so many good grade stake horses in this. So what grade is this race? Oh, it's a listed stake for $75,000. I think due to the COVID stuff, they were looking for a race, and this 75 listed just kind of ended up being the spot everyone wanted to go to.
Mm-hmm.
This league, we haven't even talked about it. Mark Cassidy must think War of Will is this beast on the grass all of a sudden. He's going to go from here into the Shoemaker Mile, which is a grade 1, so I can't imagine it's going to be any weaker of a field.
Yeah.
Although I kind of know that the grass horses out east do outperform the one on the west coast. So I think the key to all this will be what kind of trip will the 11 get, although the 11 at 4-1 is very tasty.
Yeah.
2-1 and 5-2.
Oh yeah, completely agree. Right now the 11 is easily the bet for me as well. Definitely the class of the field, the one to beat too, and you're getting 4-1 on a proven horse versus 2-1 on Halliday, who has not faced this class at all. And the other thing too with Halliday is he's probably going to get some pace pressure, right? There are other speed type horses and ones that are great at stakes winning. I mean, the other one that I didn't really know what to do with was the number 3, El Tormenta. Well, has ran really good races, but that last out in the Appleton was just not good. It was not good. Was up top or was setting a red fractioned pace, and if El Tormenta can get kind of loose, uh, El Tormenta shown would by a mile, Grade One winner. You know, it can happen.
So I was doing some reading the last few days, handicapping books, and it's interesting. So when you look in his last race, it's Keen, and now you see the trainer instantly goes blinkers off. So obviously Keen, everyone, for people who don't know, these are the horses pretty rank, and that's obviously the fast pace and all that. So now they decided to go blinkers off. When you see blinkers go on a horse, there is a problem with the horse. It's not that the trainer is trying to just make something happen out in there. There's a problem with concentration or something along that point. Now the blinkers are coming off. The horse was keen last race. Obviously, they're trying to fix that, but also maybe the horse doesn't need blinkers as much anymore. Maybe they finally the horse properly. Now, the one thing about the race at Woodbine, it was on a good racetrack. This is obviously a firm grass track. So it's just something like this, where a guy like Dylan Davis can bring a horse on the lead and go very easily. This horse is also 8-1, so he's taking money.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that was kind of the thing is, I felt that this horse always liked a little bit of cut in the ground, and Gulfstream Park turf is as firm as it gets. So we'll ultimately see. So Spencer, to recap, your A's are the 11 and the 9. My A's for this race would be the 6 and the 11. Correct?
6 and 9 are the A's for me.
Oh, 6 and 9. I apologize.
Yeah, the B is the 111. What are your quick thoughts? Obviously, Irad's having a good day. 3 wins so far in 8 races. Mm-hmm. He's in the 4 Aquaphobia. This is a horse that, here we go. Michael Maker, 7-year-old horse, claim 2 back, and now he's in a stake race. Have we not seen this story before?
Many times before, many times. And Aquaphobia has shown that, he does have some talented, and it does have some talent in some back races that really do make him competitive in this race. When it came to other horses, I just like them a little bit better. And I think that this is a good spot for Aquaphobia if we didn't have graded stakes winning horses here. So ultimately, I would like to see how he does coming out of this race, but he's absolutely a player. You have to include him underneath on any exotics.
Now, obviously, we were going to do this originally to try to build and talk Pick 4 tickets. What do you do when you're trying to start building a ticket? Like, I know some people, they'll pick their A's and B's as they go along, or they'll handicap the whole sequence, then go back. What's your preferred method here?
So for me, I go through and handicap everything. Every race, and then I go through and I systematically figure out what my strongest opinions are. With this sequence, I don't really have any singles. I don't have any standout horses. So for me, if I was going to play a pick 4, I would basically play 4 different tickets, where I would single a horse in each leg that I feel is my best opinion, and try to leverage that way. So that way, if I do have 2 good opinions come through, then I'm alive to 2 tickets, going into the last race. So the goal for me would be to do that. Again, with this race, with this sequence being so tough, for me, I would probably just single the 11 in any sort of pick 4 play, just because it's the price. And I mean, Joel Rosario on the grass with a closer, you can't really go wrong with that. So that would be my goal with this. What about you, Spencer? What are your thoughts on ticket structures and how you play this?
So I'll kind of talk a little bit. So, what I've heard a lot of people talk about is the negative way to do it, which is just building a caveman ticket, which would be, if it was just me for the first three races, we only get into the last race. I'm 3 by 4 by 5. So we're talking about a $60 ticket right off the rip, and my bankroll is not anywhere near that. So, first of all, I would be playing over my head, and now I have to try to hit a bet that's incredibly difficult to hit for how many people do hit it. So when we kind of break it down, we're talking A's and B's. You really want to make it not. You want to make it efficient. So the key is that even if you miss on an A ticket and you have a backup for a B, you want to have it the right way. So in this type of race, I want the 6 and the 9 for $1 maybe, and I want the 11 for 50 cents when we're going through and finding the other horses. Like when you find a spread leg, and we've talked about this before, if you find a spread leg and you know somebody who's singled in that leg, they find the race with a lot more equity than you do because you're so deep in your picks. And also people who will single. Let's say somebody was going with a 6 here and they had 4 other horses. I've always been against it. I think just from an equity standpoint, me having such a low bankroll, that you just need to, if you're going to go stretch out a ticket like that, you shouldn't be playing the top choice or top two choices. Because if you think
100,
that
110%.
if you think the race is that wide open, there's no reason to.
Yeah, yeah, you're shooting yourself in the foot at that point.
Because what people are happy when they hit. People want to hit winning tickets. I all the time at Saratoga. I hit a 3 to 5 shot, and I will watch them as they walk out, stuck $60 after that because the rest of the races they didn't hit anything, and 3 to 5 does not make your day.
No, definitely, definitely not. Not
So
one bit.
in this race, I'm actually. Is it weird that the 11 is 7 to 2? Do you think people are a little bit confused about this race and just maybe don't know what to do with the post position? And that the 6 at 2 to 1, Aquaphobia got cut in half. The 3 took some money. Really, the only horse that didn't take money was Hawkish.
Yeah, it is interesting to not see the horse take money. And it looks like he'll probably come down slightly from that 7 to 2, but I think overall that price is fair considering how contentious this field is. Moving forward to race 10, who would be your A's on a ticket in race 10?
My A's for sure. I definitely like Harbor Master. He's one that I would not want to leave off. And I would also probably look a little bit at the one counter offer as well, just to kind of add some value.
Sure. My A's is the 11 shooting the breeze, and I do have to have Battle of Blenheim be an A.
Okay.
Murat Ortiz, Mike Maker, speed. Even though it feels like there's a lot of speed in that race, you know that Rad's going to be aggressive and going to try to make Battle of Blenheim be speed of the speed and see who goes with them. And that also does set up someone like Harbor Master, who is a very strong B for me for sure. All right. Moving forward to race 11. Who are your A's in that race?
So this is the one that I was having the most trouble with. I ended up going 5 deep. I definitely like the 11 Whiskey Sunrise, Michael Yates, Vasquez in the irons. Really strong pace last time out, wins with a 75. It is a maiden facing winners for the first time, but I think with the outside post, you might get a little bit lucky. I did also like the 8 Cryogenic. Christian Landero seems to be finally winning some races. The horse has been in excellent form. 3 for the last 3 in the money. And it's a weird race. September teen with the 78, another maiden facing winners. I thought, why not just throw the book at this race? If I'm going to go 5 deep, I might as well kind of find some prices. And then the 2 Bs I would use were Tap It to Win, who was the 3, and the 4, I'll Fight Dempsey.
Wow. So the two B's for you are
But
are yeah, they're definitely my top A's. I don't need anyone else as far as A's are concerned. I do think that it is a contentious race. I don't know what to do with a horse by the like the number 7, Haunted by the Music, with connections that are a little bit sneaky, but the horse does absolutely fit. Whiskey Sunrise, Michael Yates has been on fire at Gulfstream Park the past few days, and was one that you. I mean, if you're going to spread in that race, you have to include. I even thought someone like our Mercedes boy, the number 5, you'd have to include. So for me, my lone A's are the 3 and the 4 for me. I just think that those two horses, if they step up at all off of previous efforts, are going to be miles above and are going to be really hard to beat. Especially Tap It to Win. Those previous figures, if he can at all um, improve off of those, he's going to be very tough to beat. The interesting thing for Tabit to win is his pedigree screams long, and I mean real long. So the what is 6 furlongs seems a bit short.
Yeah.
Um,
About that all the time. You look yesterday with the frosted 2-year-old 4.5. Now, not only was that horse greener than dog shit, but I mean, when you look at it, everyone bets names of sires because I think the sires will be amazing. Today, a Constitution horse won. I forget what I got on it, but it was like above even money, which just how many times you have to win with a 2-year-old before the sire becomes like American Pharaoh apparently.
yeah, and well, and with that race specifically, I mean, it was insane value on the Todd Pletcher Constitution horse. It was crazy to me. All right, and then the last race, race 12, which is just a mind bender.
Mm.
What I mean, what are you? Who are your A's in the last and in the 12?
I actually did find a single, and I think it is more that I am just so. I, I like optional claimers, and I like when they add the starter allowance to it. But this race, the whole, if you guys are playing the pick six and still alive, congratulations, because this is just. We should have realized when it was a force out how tough the back end sequence was going to be. I ended up on the 2, Trapezoid, Edgar Zayas. I just like the form he's in. I like horses that win for over the amount. So the start allowance is 8K. He just won for 12-2 back, and then he obviously ran the same level and ran third. So he showed he can kind of handle the class level. He just needs a little bit of improvement, but he also won for a little bit higher last time out. It was also now it's third time out for the trainer. The horse is going a little bit backwards by figures, but I think maybe you give Edgar one more shot on the horse, you might get yourself a decent price to end it. The pick 4.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. I also have the number 2 trapezoid as an A. I have the 3, the favorite Peppy the Hunter as an A as well. The back numbers on this horse are just way too good to leave off, and the workout reports have been good coming out of that last race for Peppy the Hunter. So if Peppy can keep that class in any way, shape, or form, miles above the field. But it's not one that I can lone single. I mean, claiming off of Safi Joseph is
Mm-hmm.
dangerous. And then on top of that, you have such unknown connections with Diane Morrissey. Um, so I I I really didn't know what to do with Pepe, but I had to include. And then for me, a B would be the Robert. I mean, the horse has numbers that have fit. Big jockey upgrade to Joe Rosario, so it's definitely a horse that I would have to include on spread tickets.
I'm not going to bash Pepe the Hunter that bad, but I will say this: for when everyone sees Safi Joseph numbers and whatever allegations not there are or have been, and you look at a horse like that, you know that he's in like that grouping of people that people think that he might be doing some funny business, and then to go to a trainer that might be her only starter ever, it's just like unless if the drugs are in there for 2 months, I think that this horse, is just going to come back down to earth a little bit. I love that he's 9-5 because I think it just creates immense value on the back end. Now, when this horse wins by 6, yeah, I will look like a dumbass, but I'd rather look like a dumbass when I miss a 9-5 shot instead of having 5-1.
110%. So going into the gate here for the ninth race, we still see Halliday is 2-1. Um, and also social paranoia was taking a little money 5-2, and admission office actually drifted up to 4-1, which is insane. All right.
Saez, nice little riding double as well.
Yep. Yeah. Saez was easily the best on that one. That was went to the lead. And that was the thing too with this race. It looked like there were a few pace players that could have put pressure on him. They were nowhere to be found after that first quarter. Absolutely nowhere. So
It seems like Dennis says we're muted. I don't know how long ago we sent that.
we were muted for the entire race stream, so people got to miss our ingenious race call.
That's um, it's been a tough day. I mean, for how well I started in the middle of the day, these kind of cars are just always going to be difficult. Obviously, I was turf maiden races people find difficult. What do you think is the hardest race you find, whether it's a distance or a class level?
Well, I mean, the 2-year-old races this time of the year can be a little perplexing just because there's just no information, and especially this time of the year where we have a lot of the first crops from new sires. So you never know what to kind of understand, what to do with that. Beatrice, you don't need to play into Spencer. You really want the Tottenham. That's what you're looking for, but that's okay. Um, so yeah, I think these early 2-year-old races are tough. And also, for instance, at Gulfstream, they run a lot of lower level claiming sprints on the turf, and those, I mean, you get a ton of value in those races just because they're 5 furlong dashes, and you have 12, 13 horse fields. I mean, it's really tough. How about for you, Spencer? What are the most perplexing races for you?
For me, it comes. It's not even so much. I can't. First of all, Holiday paying 460 to me in this race is ludicrous. I have to look at myself after that happening.
Way too low.
I agree, way too low. Just it hurts when you have to do certain stuff. I would not have had him on the win end. I would have absolutely had admission officer social paranoia. And then, oh my lord, have mercy! Looking at this guy's freaking badge over here. What am I gonna do with this guy? It's just hey, it's not even so much a class as it would be like a certain distance. I think the hardest part for people is finding out what certain horses like certain distances. What computes a middle distance. For me, it's 7 furlongs to a mile and 16th. Anything past that to me is a longer distance, and anything shorter than that is obviously a sprint to a super sprint.
Mhm.
So when you're trying to break down horses and figure out what horse is going to be what, and this kind of goes into like our process. For me, if you don't do pace first, it's a mistake because you need to know how the race will be run before you can look at all the other horses. And I hate pace. To me, it's like pulling teeth with pace. I don't like doing it. I would much rather dig into trainer stats and looking at different buyer upgrades, downgrades. It's actually snowing in New York right now at my house. What in the? Okay,
It
back.
it snowed it snowed here this morning, and it's going to snow overnight here. So
That's in Minnesota though. This is New York in May. I know I saw a bunch of people on Twitter had it. I just can't believe it actually hit upstate at this point. Looks like Todd Pletcher is getting an award also on Gulfstream for being the winning trainer. Congrats to him as well. It's like we talk about process. Learning tracks. For people who buy the form and play 5 tracks, it's impossible. You need to really just dig down into one track. And sure, it sucks when they only race 4 days a week or 3 days a week, but use those off days to just rewatch races and take notes and look at formulator. You can still go back. I don't know if you can actually look back after a car is done, but you can circle some trainers that you're like, I want to know exactly what these guys are good at. Dirt sprint, turf routes. The stuff on the bottom of the DRF is nice, but it's a year and a half to 2 years. It's not 100% foolproof, and you don't know what they are interconnected together. A guy could be off 0 for 8 with a 180-day layoff for the last year and a half, but we might actually have 3 winners farther back that are good with turf sprinters.
yep.
So
It,
just learning your process.
yeah, I completely agree. Formulator is great with being able to look at those trainer stats and go a little bit more in depth. The bottom of the forms is good for a quick broad brush picture, but usually never ever tells the real story about what's going on and what these trainers are really good for. So I completely agree with all of that. Yeah, Halliday 460, Aquaphobia second. It was a horse that you and I both said that you needed to include underneath, and your other a social paranoia coming in third. Um, it looks like Spencer beat me on this round. Uh,
Yes. Talk to Gorgon Zola. He is covering it today. Vinny is doing some housework on the new house, so he should be upgrading everything. I do know he was going to the store in a little bit. I don't know if he'll be back with updated standings.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And yes, Marshall the Weatherman. I got you. I'm still trying to process what the forecast is going to be tomorrow for Gulfstream. I know I've had a couple people reach out to me It is kind of complicated, but it looks like precipitation will start probably around 1 o'clock or so. Um, but models haven't been necessarily handling things all that well. So we'll kind of see how things go as far as that's concerned. But yeah, the bulk of the rain looks to actually come through probably afternoon. So it'll be kind of an interesting touchy card for Gulfstream.
I guess we can announce some stuff on that we've been working on. Obviously, there is a new Marshall made us a nice little design for the Daily Gallup website. We are looking to start something called My Academy, which will be pretty much beginner, intermediate, advanced writings and possible videos on here on how to read the form, certain angles. So we are going to be looking in the future for certain people to do that. We're looking for writers as well, guys. I think we're full for Churchill for the meet. I'm always needing a couple guys for Santa Anita. We never seen, and also for Gulfstream. I'm going to ask a couple of guys who were doing it before all the COVID stuff started. But if anybody would like to write some stuff for us, I'm sure we can find you a track at this point, or just doing articles with us. There's always something to do. Reach out to me at Andy Capper or at the Daily Gallup. We will be sure to find something for you to do. Marshall, 10th race, mile on the grass. We've already talked about our A's and B's. These optional claimers are not exactly allowances, but I've always looked at them as an N1X. What about?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think these types of races are high level allowances. I mean, you'll see horses like, say, the number 6 Bella Blenheim, who has been a tough horse to gauge, especially in some of the races going back. But it's definitely a horse that you need to include, I think, on tickets just because of a lot of the back class. Going up against old vets like Slim Shady and Dr. Edgar, some very tough knocking older type horses. These races really do, have some good backlash for them. What's your approach for these types of races? Are you a class guy when it comes to looking at these N1Xs, seeing who they've raced against and what sort of races they've had coming into this, or are you a buyer and speed guy coming in?
So it's actually both. I want to see buyers at right levels. So we'll use the 6, who I believe is the favorite right now, as I switch back and forth from the chat.
7 to 5. Yep.
So when you see numbers like 87, 88, 88, 85, usually with a horse with 14 starts, he's deeper into the maturity, 6 years old, probably going to run a mid to high 80 again. So then you have to figure out, can I find the horse that can improve or get a better trip than this horse? So I left this horse off. I thought we'd see a horse like Harbor Master for Joe Bravo, who, by the way, the 6 and the 5 are both in for the tag, which means they've already won at this type of level. But this horse is dropping at 62,000 races. The first time trainer and off the layoff are not good numbers. But this is something that I didn't have enough time to look forward into a formulator, but I'd be curious to see what that number was together. But this horse has 3 of the 4 numbers that are together. So fits for speed and class. Now the problem with the horse is the trainer staff.
Yeah, and that was where I had a hard time being able to use this horse on tickets, was because of the trainer stats, not only off the layoff, but switching barns, and that kind of really worried me. Also getting Joe Bravo, he has some really good rides sometimes, but he's not one that I particularly like to look at when it comes to turf racing in general. And that's why for me, I really did like Shootin' the Breeze, who is taking a ton of money down to 9 to 5 from the 8-1 morning line. The connections are really good on the turf. Obviously, Joe Rosario is top-notch jockey on the turf, and Graham Motion too is a very, very good turf trainer. What did you think about the number 11, Shootin' the Breeze?
So this is the hardest thing I always have, because like I said, I call it N1X, but obviously the N1X is what this horse is coming out of. So it's hard for me to say. For me, it is a class drop because there are allowances, but this is an allowance with another condition to it. So the more conditions you have, the more horses I think are allowed into the race because they're trying to get as many horses from around the grounds in. So for me, it's a class drop.
Mm-hmm.
People might not think so. I think that when we look back at the Colonial race, 74 off the board, 77, last race at Keeneland, now Graham brings him back in this at a same distance. 14-1 wasn't supposed to do anything. Runs a really credible horse.
Yeah, exactly. And that was, that last race was the one that I really focused on. I mean, it was a great effort. Felt like he definitely put his run in, and easily could have got there. And now coming back, from that allowance here, we go from Victor LeBron, who I could give or take as far as jockey's concerned, to Joel Rosario, and boy, the horse that beat Shooting the Breeze last out, Golden Tappet, he looks like a very good stakes runner. Very good stakes runner. So I really liked that back class, and finishing fourth in that field felt like if we could see that sort of effort again, that he was going to be very, very tough in this race.
And now this is the question: is the horse in for the tag? This horse is not, so they're still being protected. And then this is the only question I have with this horse is when we look at the career box: 11 starts, 1 win, 500 placings. I'd rather have that at 14-1 than at 2-1 right now. So maybe that last race is being a little bit over exemplified in the pool.
I think not only that last race, but when you look at the connections, when you're looking at Joe Rosario from Victor LeBron, I mean, Joe Rosario takes money, and especially when you see that sort of jockey switch, that's going to really make people look again. The number 9, Honey Won't, finished a distant sixth behind Battle of Blenheim in that last optional claiming N1X. What did you think of Honey Won't and the trouble that he seemed to find coming down the stretch?
It's not so much the trouble; it's the race 2-back in the starter allowance where he runs a big 87 on slow blue fractions. That race automatically to me is downgraded by ability figures, and then your worst race next time out is off a layoff with a lot of time, 4 months or so. It just seemed to me that when you bring a horse into the starter allowance, now he's into the optional and he runs that bad, obviously you get another big rider upgrade here. Maybe they were always waiting for this race, and that was just kind of like that was the prep for this race, but when a horse is raced 13 times, he has up 2 wins at Gulfstream, which is always nice, and he's 3 for 4 in the exact at this distance. It's horses like this that you have to be careful about because it all comes down to the price.
Yeah, and for me, that last race, the trouble, they don't show any trouble. But when you watch the replay, Hector Barrios was on a horse where the reins had broke, and the horse was rushing up on the outside, and actually Hector Barrios was riding the horse down the front stretch, just to try to get the horse out of the way, and it actually keyed up not only Honey Won't, but the other horse to his inside were on the lead. And so, like for instance, with that race, you'll see that red pace figure in the third call because they were getting keyed up by that horse on the outside, and they were actually trying to run with him as Hector was scrubbing on him on the outside. So I gave Honey Won't a look because of that trip, and it would be my third choice in this race, but is definitely going to have to find more to be able to keep up with Battle of Blenheim in this race, and not only Battle of Blenheim, but the number 11 as well. Also moving forward, the number 5, Harbor Master. What did you like about that last race in that optional claiming 62 that that coming into this race, makes you feel confident?
It's not so much the fact of what I liked about the race, it's the fact that this horse is a 6-year-old. When you look, he had the long time off before the optional 2-back. The fact that the horse improved so much that second time out off of another type of layoff I wonder if now going into the Patrick B. and Cohn barn, 11% on the turf. It's an okay average. Usually anything above 10 is going to be decent. I was looking for a price because I didn't like the 6. Two other horses that I'm somewhat interested in are the 3 and the 1. Edgar's eyes on the 1. The Recife Mirage horse just seems like a horse that at 19 to 1 is just way, way under bet at this point. And I don't know.
Yeah, I completely agree. At the same time, I didn't like the 3, just for the simple fact that I haven't liked Rajiv as of late. Once he came back from his injury, he's been not as aggressive as what he had typically been prior. And that always kind of makes me worry that he kind of changed tactics with this, with how he rides horses in general. And the connections, Juan Rizzo is an over this year, so that really made me pause. But he does have back races that are good, and if he can show any of the past two back, three back, four back races, he'd absolutely, could be a contender coming into this race. Ultimately, for me, I would use this horse underneath. I wouldn't have any money with the 3 on top.
I mean, I don't know if you look at the chat. Dennis is in a dog fight in his tournament. 42-40 for Dennis, 43-40 for Wise Don, and 46-60 for Trackside Mike. I mean, yikes.
Yeah, that is a real close battle.
It's called 210 to show, and you lose your spot in the next round of the NIT.
Yeah, right. And Dennis, yes, Victor LeBron, the former Turfway Park leading rider. I do know that, and I do not like him at Gulfstream Park. He has been very up and down, and I just think that the jockey colony at Gulfstream Park is miles above that of Turfway Park, personally.
I mean, we talk about it all the time. Antonio Gallardo of Tampa, goes up to Aqueduct and wins 9 races opening week of either Breeders' Cup last year or the year before. And everyone else came back in California, and he slumped to 0 for 45 and got in a airplane and went back to Tampa. Mm-hmm. It's so hard to break in. We think about when, everyone's like, why is Joel going to leave California when it was just him and Banjo, Rafael Bejarano, and come to New York, and then all of a sudden you see exactly what is happening, where he is becoming one of the top riders. There's good moves and there's bad moves for people who play Monday nights, Mountaineer. It was Deshaun Parker, and then there was 75 other jockeys.
Mm-hmm.
And now everyone thought was going to move somewhere else. He ended up moving to Indiana. I think he's been doing fine. I think he's like mid 10, 15%, but he's playing for much higher purses.
Yep.
So he's the type of jockey where he's going to get his good money. He's probably, whatever he was, 28% at Mountaineer. He's probably making just as much money being 10% to 12% at Indiana.
Yeah, exactly. And if I was a jockey, I'm a very competitive person. If I'm not winning, then I'm going to be, I'm going to be upset about it, and I'm not going to be as confident in my decision making moving forward and that sort of thing. So I think it is always in the best interest of jockeys to be in the class level that they should be in, not only from a paycheck standpoint, but just from a mental aspect as well.
What for you is a good percentage, and what is a bad percentage for connections? Like, where is something where it's like, oh, the horse is 6 to 5, like with these Wesley 2-year-olds. I mean, it just seems like that's more of what's happening right now. It's not so much a percentage, but like for me, it's 5% and under. I find it really hard to play horses like that.
Yeah, and even like 10% really kind of makes me itch a little bit. And two, I mean, it depends on the circumstances, right? I mean, if the trainer has better training stats with that specific type of race or age, sex, or distance than what he normally has, then that makes me, positive, a little more positive on that, regardless of what that percentage is. If he's 5%, in general, but then when you start looking at subcategories and you see 10, 13, 17%, that makes me think that, this trainer excels at that. And those are the things that I would tend to focus on more than jockey trainer combos. Um, because I think that some of those can be really misleading. Someone like Johnny V or someone like Javier who are first call for Pletcher. I mean, 5 years ago, Pletcher was unstoppable, and now and those jockeys really benefited from the training regimens and the horses that Pletcher was bringing in. So I think jockey trainer combos can be a little bit deceiving depending on that.
Do you need a certain number of starters? For me, my number has always been 20. I think it's a big enough sample size because if you're winning 4 or 5 out of that, you're at 20%. And it's like anything under 5 wins for me is kind of, I don't know if they can do it all the time.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hard part. It depends on how far down the rabbit hole you're digging as far as statistics are concerned. Because if you're like, oh, dirt, fillies, sprints, maiden claiming, off the layoff, second off a 360-day layoff, like you're not going to have big sample sizes. You're just not. So you just got to kind of keep that in mind with however many subcategories you're going down. You're going to see a lot smaller sample size in that case.
We appreciate, as always, the people who are hanging out with us today. We know it's not the biggest stream. There's only 2 of us. Vinny is also off this week. He's hanging out at the house, putting down some tile. Last time I talked to him. Marshall, you're going to be off for next week.
Yeah, I'm off next week. Fishing opener was today in Minnesota. And as I was saying before, it was snowing. So my fiance and I did not go out fishing at all. But next weekend we are definitely planning to be out for most of the day. So unfortunately, that removes me from the stream. Hopefully we can get back maybe the week after. But yeah, it's always a delicate balancing act when we're talking about hobbies and relationships and Andrea's been very supportive of my horse racing hobby. So, if she's got to twist my arm to drink beer and fish, then yeah, so be it.
Find yourself one of those boys and girls who help with hobbies, whether it is horse racing or anything. I will hopefully be back next week. We're guessing it's either Churchill or Santa Anita, depending on what guests I can kind of decide to come hang out with me. We might do both. We might only do a little bit. It'll kind of depend on what we see when the PPs come out. Hoping, like we said, that Santa Anita will be running because I know my guys at the Daily Gallop are itching to get some Southern California action underway.
Leaves, twigs, brush,
We're getting down to the nitty gritty here. What any other thoughts on this 10th race here, Marshall?
I mean, I think that the 7 Basha, who is 40-1, I would have this horse underneath personally. Deep closer, but has found trouble in previous events, not only with poor starts, getting bumped, but also having races with slow paces.
Can we?
And in that last race, I think that the switch from Vasquez to Luis Reyes is a positive. I do like Luis Reyes, and I think that he's a little more aggressive. And if I could get Basha in the middle of the pack, I think that horse could be interesting turning for home. And at 40-1, I mean, underneath is where I would have him, but it's definitely a horse that if I was going to play tries, I would absolutely have to have him in 3rd place.
I think it's Swedish.
Talk about the 6 here just in general, and this comes from me, who is much more of I'm not so much selection oriented as I am value oriented. If this horse is a person on my line, and you think he's going to win at even money, that means he has to win 50 out of 100 races. There are a lot of other things going on in this race that I just don't see 50 at all being near the number. And not only would it have to be even money, then you'd have to get your little upgrade on it because you're never going to be right 100% of the time. So you have to have your little buffer of, 20% I think is what Jim Cramer uses and 50% is what Barry Meadow uses. So it just seems to me like this horse is just such an underlay. And now you do have to try and find some horses. I'm leaning toward, if I was ever going to play double dutching here, it'd be the 5 and the 3. I just think Harbor Master off the layoff, maybe we get a number like that back, and the 3 Sublime Appeal. Mirage, like we said, but I mean, loves the distance, fits on figs, and like we had talked about, you want to find a jockey who is a good solid 10-15%. Rajiv is 8. I've never been a fan of Rajiv Mirage, but this is also what makes the value. You are never going, if you flip the jockey of the 3 and the 6, the 3 would be half the price because it's IRAD.
Oh yeah, undoubtedly so.
So people who say, oh, don't play names or numbers, that's all my aunt plays at Saratoga. She plays Todd Pletcher and Johnny V because that's all she knows, and that's all she used to see in the winner's circle.
Yeah, and it, going into this race, it felt like Battle of Blenheim was going to take a lot of money just because of the connections. And I agree that I wouldn't foresee him winning 50% of the races if this were ran 100 times. So to me, that automatically makes me itchy. I would much rather have the 11 at 5-2. Even that price is a little low for me on the 11, but is definitely one that I would have to have. And like I said, Honey won't. The number 9, 7-1. I'm more than happy with that. More than happy with that.
I feel like if you had 3 contenders, I think on my line 6-1 or higher for your third contender, so you'd be playing the 9 here. Mm-hmm. I think usually it's 33% or 33 times out of 100 for 2-1, so you're looking at probably like 28 on a 5-2 shot. I think that this race is interesting. I think the 6 needs to win, but this is where it comes down to: do you want to make money, or do you want to find the winner? You want to make money.
Yeah, I'm all about money. As much as I like just to win, winning and making very little money doesn't make any sense to me. The risk versus reward at that rate is just not good enough. So for me, 9, like a key box exacta where I key the 9, I got to have the 11, I got to have the 5, and got to have the 6 in there as well.
Good luck to everybody watching in your bets. Hopefully you're still alive in this pick 6 or the pick 4. I believe that my A's in this race, now I'm looking back at it, were the 5-3. From what I can remember from us talking earlier. Let's see who gets it done here in race 10 right now.
The hope for us is that this 6 is going to go out to the lead and going to have pressure. 6 comes out fast. The 8 comes out faster. The 3 is sitting that pocket trip on the rail.
The 3 just broke well, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And now he's going to get the 6 is going to get the perfect trip here. I think that they're just going to hug the rail out. The 8 was a little bit ranked too when he came off the pony for Dylan. He was going a little bit crazy, so I think Dylan just said, "YOLO, we're going."
Stop. Well, the 8 has shown speed in the past, but I guess I wasn't expecting him to be right on the lead. Wow, is he just trying to wrangle him back as much as he can?
The horse does seem a little bit rank, and Dylan's just kind of like, let's not go 22 to the quarter. They did go pretty slow, 24 and 2, 24 and 1.
Yeah, definitely went a little bit slow there. Interesting fractions. 24 and 1, no, maybe not. 48-3. I mean, boy, that 6 looks just loaded for bear there.
Rajiv got the perfect trip at 17-1. I mean, I can't ask for anything other than the trip he's getting. But I mean, the 6 going 3 wide, the 9's all out, it seems. I mean, did they let this 8 skip away here? Let's try and get somebody coming home. Come on, Rajiv.
See if I can put a flyer on him.
And they're just going to kick away from these horses. Rajiv is trying his arse off on this horse.
Yeah, oh yeah. Yep, and Battle of Blenheim, easy.
Here comes both of my, absolute bomb shots.
6, 8, 5, and it looked like the 3 may have got 4th. It was tough because there was quite a few horses coming across the line for the 4th spot, but definitely 6, 8, 5. That 8 hung on a lot better than I thought. The Roger Hatfield horse. I knew that he was going to show speed. He's been a kind of a speed and fade type of horse in the past, I was a bit leery about keeping him on top, but boy, the turf has definitely been
There's a
kind
DD over
to
there.
front
I'm
end
assuming,
speed.
somewhere.
It
That
also,
is for sure.
to me, that it's when you look at this horse, won his last race. Well, what changed out of this race? Absolutely nothing. So what that tells me, compared to all the other riders, maybe the Dylan Davis switch was really good for this horse.
Yeah, yeah, and you can't underestimate a jockey that knows the horse, and and especially something a horse that's kind of headstrong like this, that always is tough on a jockey. Do you let the horse have its head and go a little quick, or do you try to wrangle back and hope that you don't burn the horse out by making the horse rank? And it just so happened that Dylan had the even amount of not only aggressiveness, letting the horse having its head, but also trying to wrangle him back as well. So I thought it was a really good ride by Dylan Davis.
I'm going to try and get a little update from Gorgonzola on my matchup. Let's see here.
Now in the contest for this race, would did you who did you have? Did you have the 5 as your top?
He was my second. I went with the 1.
Oh.
With the 1.
Well, so good thing for you. We get that chalk in. Although, boy, having the 8 at 8-1 being second and the 5 at 17-1 coming third is not ideal.
And I know I hadn't talked about the 1. It's hard for me too, because a lot of times with these, God, I read it's 4 wins today.
Ooh.
When you the way we do our tournament and stuff, it's definitely, it's not your everyday handicapping tournament. We try and put in as much effort as possible. For me this week, it was one of those weeks where I couldn't put in a lot of effort, so I kind of woke up this morning, did some stuff around the house, and I was like, I should probably start looking at these races.
Lance.
So I kind of, I wanted to give a little bit more of an effort on these last couple of races. So the 1 for me was just one that I thought was going to give a little bit more value. Closing, had that nice little last out. I thought it was on the improve as well. Just couldn't get it done. The 6 being the chalk. Hopefully Mike sends me back. I mean, I was up something like $30-$40 on Eddie. So, I mean, if he climbs back into this, I have only myself to blame. Battle of Blenheim pays $440, $740 for the 8, and $660 for the 5 Harbor Master. So, like we said with the Harbor Master, maybe this was the layoff he needed. This is the good race. Now we'll get something a little bit better next time out.
Yeah, definitely, and nice to see the 9 Honey Won't coming forth. That was the other horse that I kind of liked, and especially at the price, that would be the horse that I had to play, and especially Honey Won't actually drop down considerably after the gate opened up, down to 5-1. So
daring
interesting to see. In the contest for me, all 3 of us, Stephen Parrott and Ryan McCarthy, all had the 11 in that race. So no points lost on that. So thankfully, going into the last 2 races, I look okay. In the last 2 races, all 3 of us have 3 different picks. So it's gonna be a sprint to the finish for sure for us.
For everyone who is watching, we are going to do a second season of this. We are actually already full. It's going to be freaking amazing. We have 40 people for the next season. We're either going to do 2 sets of 20 or 4 sets of 10. Same type of playoff stuff. It'll go probably right till around Breeders' Cup, maybe a little bit before that. It's just the COVID thing messed all this up. We had such a good idea, me and Vinny. Real Dynasty picks for
they just ran out.
We were going to go to the Belmont for the first season, to Breeders' Cup for the second. We had weeks cleared out, and this has just kind of messed it all up. Let's start talking about race 11 here. This is another race. When you have state breds and you have horses dropping from open to state bred, obviously it's a bigger dropping class than you think. What are you kind of looking for when you're looking at those droppers specifically? Do you think it's more of they're trying to find an easier spot, or what, or whatever else?
Normally, when we would have 30, 40 tracks running during the weekend, I would absolutely say they're looking to find an easier spot to be able to build some confidence. I think with COVID-19 and just the lack of racing in general, horses that have been in much tougher spots and are coming into this race, something like Tap It to Win or I'll Fight Dempsey. I think they're just looking to get a race under their belt moving forward. I'll Fight Dempsey
You okay
was
over there, Lance?
highly regarded in the debut, um, and then came back in that optional claiming and went off at 50 cents. So that horse he was bet heavily. Um, so I think coming back off that effort, they're kind of looking for a confidence builder because I mean he was the extreme favorite and was beat 2 1/4 lengths. So
What do you
this
mean,
feels like a
Lance?
little bit of a confidence booster. The unfortunate part for the confidence booster is he ran into some tough N1X foes here. What about you when it comes to a race like this? Are you looking for those who have been facing open company, kind of coming against state bred restricted, or are you just looking for any sort of droppers? There are a few that are just dropping in class that have already faced state bred foes. What are your thoughts on the class perspective in this race?
So obviously, being a James Quinn kind of person, I love what he talks about with class. There's a proven loser that James Kramer used that he also kind of talks about, and it's if a horse has lost 6 times at a certain level, that's more than enough times that you should probably just let the horse find a drop in class. When you find
What
this
happened?
more or less happens in maiden races, horses that run for 16 4 races ago and now they're
Why?
running for 40. If they lost for 16 a couple of races ago, they're probably not going to jump up. And if they
Live
are,
streaming
it
what?
means they're in razor sharp form, and you're going to try and want to beat those horses anyway because they're going to be pretty short. I know a horse like we can just talk about the number one, September Teen, coming off of a maiden win, won by 7. Would I look at this horse when they're facing winners as a negative or a positive? Well, if we look at the buyer part, it's 83. Take 5 off because it's being a sprint. He fits. If the maiden winner was 4 or 5 points less, this horse would be a toss. He at least fits on speed.
Mm-hmm.
Now, becomes a contender for me? No, he still has to pass the other, the class level, which is actually a knock against him because it's first-time winners.
Mm-hmm.
He has to beat the form, and he is in very good form, and he's also improving. Every single time a horse improves past 3 races, there's becomes less and less a chance the horse is going to improve.
110%.
It's improved. He improved. Well, he went 47.76, went down to a 68. So he's improved 3 times. Louis to Joel is not a jockey. Upgrade, downgrade. For some people, it is. On the dirt sprinting, it's probably a downgrade. For me, at least.
I would say that they're probably even. The interesting thing is, Joel on a speed horse is kind of a weird deal. But he does, if the trainer says, "Hey, get out and go to the lead," he will rush his horses up and do what he needs to do to get the lead. It doesn't happen all the time, but in this case, I'm conflicted. Luis feels like he jumps off of this horse. And it just so happens that Ron Crichton was able to wrangle
totally
Joel. So for me, in this case, I would say that that's a negative.
Another thing, like you had talked about with state breds dropping, if it's a condition claimer or a state bred race, usually you want to cut the price in half, and that would be around what the open claiming price would be of a horse.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, just quickly going through, we see the number 5, our Mercedes boy, is in this type of class level, but it would be against 8K claimer form. So a lot of times you'll see state breds, they go from 16 to 8, and you're like, oh my God, what a drop in class. It's really not. Even 16 to 12 is probably more of a jump in class. And the Rainbow Pick 6 has 107,000 live tickets left. I mean, I guess it's been chalky, but I mean, I thought that 11 to 1 would kind of, I guess with 10 million.
Yeah, you're gonna get a lot of tickets coming through. So, and two, especially with a force out like this, you're gonna have a lot of tickets that are going to have the chalk in this case. Just because it's a force out, I think a lot of people don't think about it as The typical rainbow style where they need to have that single ticket to be able to
Fucking plane.
scoop the pool. So that doesn't surprise me in the least bit to see that.
When you break a horse down like Tyler Gaff and the Mark Cassie number 3, tap it to win.
Mm-hmm.
Turf to start off, good third. We know he's good at Woodbine. He brings the horse to Saratoga, switches surfaces, big improvement with Tyler. Then they say, okay, let's do the 2-year-old Run for the Roses. No good. Working out like a monster, but comes back in this type of spot.
Yeah, and that's kind of interesting to see. I mean, if you look at the horses that Tap to Win has faced, the likes of Complexifier, Governor Morris, Maxfield, Silver Prospector, some of the top contenders for the Kentucky Derby in September. Is that weird to sound? I
had a decent game. It was annoying.
I think that coming off of a brief freshening, coming from October, he's been off. I'd love to see the works coming into this race. That makes me think that they do want to get a good run into him. It does kind of feel like a prep for bigger and better things moving forward, but it feels like he's ready, and maybe he's not going to be 100% fit, and they're going to try to kind of race him into fitness, sort of thing. But also, with that in mind, the pedigree here suggests long on the dirt, and so if you're only at 80% fitness and your pedigree and your body type say long, maybe this won't. Maybe he doesn't need to be fully fit.
That's annoying,
for this race.
He's taking money as well. He's 7-2, but it is weird when you hear long, and the first race to try him was turf, and then his only lone win has been sprinting on the dirt. I mean, there are always those mix-ups, not mix-ups, but like where the horse doesn't do what you think it'll do.
Mm-hmm.
And then you look at a horse like the Todd Pletcher, Dempsey horse, 84 to start off, working lights out, comes back with a drop, but only losing by 2.5 in a much stronger race. And he went off the favorite in that race, which to me tells me that race probably wasn't. The buyers were not up to par with the 84, and he definitely declined in that race.
Yeah, 110%. And especially to see him finish that far back in that optional claiming event, that really, really makes me leery of that 84 first out. So, yeah, it's hard to judge with that 84. I'm just quickly pulling up that race to see how horses came out of it, and almost every horse regressed. There was it's about half and half. Half the horses regressed, half of them came back and improved their buyer next out. And out of those who ran, you had two next out winners in maiden special weights. So interesting to kind of see that. But in the end, that does make me a bit leery about that speed figure alone. And then, if you're nervous about that one, going into that optional claiming, you should have absolutely been against that horse.
You look at a horse like Cryogenic, the 8, 82, 83, 82, consistent, facing the same type of class level he will today. When you're looking at a race, obviously it's always, or at least maybe people don't know, droppers will always win more than the risers in class. So really when you're breaking down a race, you have to find, the pace of the race. Okay, who's going to run in what spot? Then when you're looking at class, it's dropping, staying the same, rising. And then you have to look at the form, who's improving, who's declining. There's so many different ways to look at the race, but it always comes back to the 4 pillars we talked about: pace, class, speed, and form, just to figure this out. So like this horse here, 24 starts, definitely, been around the racetrack.
Yeah.
He's not in for the tag. So he's never broken this N1X state bred tag. That's a lot of races for this horse, even though he fits kind of here. The 8 is 13-1. Yeah,
this is a horse that I think that, when you've raced, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times in this N1X condition alone, over the past year.
He actually did win it. Now I look back, won it in July, but he wasn't up. He wasn't. He was up for the tag. So I guess the way you break it is you have to be not up for the tag. So he's allowed to come back in here and still be saved. It's been weird. We've been seeing a lot more of those horses lately too, where it's like you'd think he would be not in for the condition, but I guess you have to be saved from it. But if you go in already under the tag, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, the other thing with this horse too is 4 out of the 5 wins have been on the turf. Mm-hmm. And we ain't on that surface today. And the last 2 wins in the optional claiming N1Xs, one was scheduled on the turf that came off, and the other one was on the turf. So that leads me to believe that this horse ultimately wants turf. And Mike Maker is just trying to, again, find a spot for this horse to be able to win. And ultimately, you lose Luis Saez, you get Landeros. This horse isn't going to show speed with Landeros on the back. It's too many times at this condition, and there's way too many horses that are coming into this condition with a lot better form. Now, for me, the number 7, Haunted by the Music, was able to set a slow pace at Tampa and draw off by 6 1/4 lengths. What do you do with a horse like this that shows a 79, but was able to have everything go his own way in the race?
I would flip his number with the number 11, because the number 11 rode a 75 with a fast pace and kept going. So I literally think you just flip the buyers on both of them, you probably get it right around the number.
It's ridiculous.
I just wonder if when you see a horse with, not the ownership means anything, but obviously Gallardo is the top guy at Tampa.
Well, I popped my
spotter plane. You think Irad just thinks, like, if a top rider is going to ride him there, he's probably good enough for me over here. Now we have the problem with the trainer. 2 for 21 is not bad, but I mean, the layoff numbers are scary, and he's never won. It's hard enough to win with a maiden second time in a row. It's equally as hard to just win 2 races in a row when it's not a maiden. So I kind of feel like that's 2 strikes against the trainer right there for a trainer who's not that good winning next time out.
Yeah, the connections really do scare me. This is actually my pick in the race, just because I know that he is going to show pace. He's going to be up towards the front. And I think ultimately Rad's probably going to pull him off the pace, because it does feel like there are a lot of one-way speed horses in this race. And my ultimate hope would be that he would sit kind of, first flight behind the leaders and kind of let them go. And especially being on the outside, it kind of gives them a little bit leeway once the gates open up to see kind of what's going on, especially, having pace presence to the inside. I mean, the strongest pace horse in the race feels like the 4, I'll Fight Dempsey. But in the end, there's just a lot of speed. And ultimately, I'm going to want a horse that's coming a little bit off of it. Your 11 feels to be the main speed, almost the speed of this race. And the unfortunate part is he's going to have to endure a completely different class of horses here coming out of that state-bred maiden. Does it worry you to see horses like the 4, the 7, the 10, and even the 3 has shown speed before? So does that worry you with the 11?
I think when you look at it too, you have to find out like what speed of the speed is. When I see fast paces, so this one was 124 and he went sub 20. He went 22 flat pretty much. Like, let's look at it. We look at the 4, 118, 22 and 6. That was just going a little bit farther. The 3, when he won his race, 22 and 4. No one's really ever gotten to this, like, even near. They're usually 3/10 off, 4/10 off of this type of horse. The 1, 22 and 2. I have a feeling that the 1 might make it. The problem with this horse will be how wide he is. The 11.
Yeah.
But
yeah, and trying to clear the field is going to be kind of tough from that outside post.
When you have sub 22 speed, though, it's always like when they talk California speed on the dirt compared to East Coast speed. 22 sub speed is very difficult to have.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, he just did this in a maiden special weight race, but it was state bred. I think that the price he's at right now, 6, compared to the 7, who's 9-2. I feel like those odds could even be flipped a little bit. I think the 11's good value here because you're going to get the right trip. Even if he is 2 or 3 wide, he should put away the other horses because he's also been in a knockout drag-out fight.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I mean, with the 11, you know that he can take a little pace pressure on a fast pace and be able to withstand that. And I agree. Looking at the projected odds of the 11, they project to be 6-1. So would you take 6-1 going into the game?
Yeah,
I've only done 7.
All right. What do you do with a horse like the number 4 Alpha Dempsey, where every race this horse has been in, it was bet, and I mean bet hard, and it projects to be 9-5 in this race. What sort of question marks do you have about Alpha Dempsey, and ultimately does that persuade you to get off the horse?
So it's not so much question marks. Let's talk about the positives first. First time state bred.
Mm-hmm.
Gets Louis back in the saddle, and it's taught at Gulfstream. Check, check, check. The 2 work cents were decent enough that I think that the horse, whatever problem he had, and like we've said, first time out against winners is always tough. And the horse, 4 looks bad, 2 1/4 does not look bad to me. He stuck around, and like we had said, that first original race was a good race, had 2 next out winners. The horse only raced twice. The main problem with a lot of horses is when you have a bunch of horses like this. He's really the only one. The 3 is the other one with 4 starts that we know faced a bunch of good horses going into the Triple Crown. And they are now also 9-5 and 7-2, the top 2 choices.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty much what the board, also known as the ultimate handicapper, is saying is, in this type of race, they want horses that are lightly raced, that haven't had as many mistakes. When you look at other horses, Haunted by the Music as well, first-time starter, he is shipping over from what I would call a B track to an A track, though. So can he handle the ship? IRAD jumping on is a positive at 9-2, so it's like, okay, now you've got like those 3 types. The 8 Cryogenic, like we talked about, has been in this class level for forever. Is he good for underneath? Probably if one of the other 2 don't show up, but he's probably just good to use underneath.
Mm.
The 11, in a dogfight, didn't run fast enough to get to this level, although, like we've said, Michael Yates is on fire. And
We're the North Carolina
Vasquez and him are pretty good together at 33% with a $4 ROI. When you see connections like this who only have 6 wins for the meet, they don't really have a lot of horses here, 19 starts.
What happened?
This is a big one for him.
North Carolina.
Keeps the same jockey, good number, 8-1. So the 11 is probably a solid price horse for a barn that doesn't fire a lot.
Mm-hmm.
6 for 19. If you go back and look at these, if we could break him down, maybe we'll even do it at the end of this race. What he's done so far for this meet, you might find he's one with 5 turf horses. That to me then would negate this horse because Michael Yates is more of a turf trainer.
Kid,
I don't know what his numbers are off the top of my head for the meet, except for that they're 19 for 6. But that's why it's always good to break down certain trainers, what distance, surface, etc.
Yeah, I completely agree. Moving on to the 5, our Mercedes boy who's been facing state breds over the at least the last 2 races. What do you do with a horse that, especially in the last race, where it was kind of plagued by a wire-to-wire winner on a slow pace? Georgina Baxter comes in, gets Jaramillo back. What are your thoughts on the 5, our Mercedes boy?
I think the question is, what the hell happened 3 races back when the 96 buyer? Obviously has not come close to that since, and it was a pretty big improvement of 20, 30 plus points to get from there from the optional 12 he was in before that.
Yep.
Next race out, they say, okay, we'll try him in a stake at Tampa. No bueno. They bring him back for the optional 16, runs a second. These are the type of horses, he's 6-1. You kind of have to clump the horses together. Do you want the 11 or do you want the 5? To me, the 11s have raced at the level. The 5 has.
Mm-hmm.
He's also lost against weaker for 12. and he also broke his maiden at a maiden claiming level. The horse is probably going above and beyond what they thought already of the horse. They paid $45,000. He's made $85,000. This is the type of horse that I don't know if he has another move up the ladder. But the 75 was just not a strong enough race when you have other horses in here dropping and other horses jumping up. Can this horse jump up right now and go back to the 96? He can run an 85 today. Just not the type of horse I want second off the bench in an even effort last time out the same class level.
Yeah, and that's kind of the hard part with our Mercedes boys. It's hard to trust that he's going to run anything near that 96.
Not sure how we threw that. We had him
quite
surrounded.
frankly, I think I think he would have to be below that. But do you even project him to go up 10 buyer speed points? Second off the layoff, because that's the big key here. That last out with the 75 buyer speed figure. Do you think that second off the layoff? I mean, Georgina Baxter at the bottom of the page says 32%. What do you think about second off the layoff for our Mercedes boy?
You'll probably get the improved effort here, but, and this is the thing, whenever I always talk about how much I love to look at the end of the day with the buyer's boy, this score should absolutely improve. But it's not just his improvement that's needed, it's also off by Dempsey not coming back with a big drop in class. It's the 3 tap it to win just not being the type of horse that Cassie thought he was. First off the layoff. It's the speed duel and all that. This horse might get a perfect trip a la, the 5 from last week at Oaklawn. But that's what you have to look at. If you're like, oh, the buyer jumped up 15. Well, if it was a perfect trip, it's more like 7.
Yeah. Looking at the trainer statistics for Georgina Baxter, second off the layoff, dirt sprints. She is 6 for 13, 46%. What do you do with that?
Yikes! That's a good enough trainer stat where, and this would be my preference. If you're a guy who really likes trainer stats, which I do, you just take it at the trainer stat. That's almost 50%. You just go with it. 6 to 1. If she's going to hit it 50% of the time, you're going to make money betting 6 to 1 shots like this. So you're almost forced to make the bet. For me, I still don't believe in the horse as much. I would rather play a horse like the 11 and also the 1. A horse improving every single. I'd rather play the maiden races in this, which is probably a terrible mistake. These horses are probably not going to win. But I mean, 12 to 1 and 6 to 1. I think that 46% is ungodly, and this just kind of shows what formulator is. If that was on the page as 46%, people would be betting this horse through the.
They'd be betting this horse absolutely blind, hand over fist, as much as they could. Say that again?
It's not the wrong thing either to bet it blind over fist, because at 6 to 1, if you're going to get a 14 horse every whatever time, if she's hitting 46, so let's call it 50. So you're going to get 14 for every $4 wager. 2 bets, $14. Guys, that is a positive ROI. That's a winning move.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That's getting the gate here.
Yeah. And the ROI on that was $2.75.
The winning trainer angle.
Man. All right.
The
last one going in is the Georgina Baxter, number 5, our Mercedes boy. Actually, there's the 11 coming in.
You're just gimping yourself.
Anymore.
Gates pop open, and the 3, the 4, the 5, and the 11 line up. With the 4 taking a little bit of a head position, our Mercedes boy, the 5, sitting just off, and Tap It to Win sitting right behind that with the Live Oak Stables. Silks, get Whiskey Sunrise, your 11, 3 wide.
It seemed to me, obviously, like as soon as they broke out of the gate, the 11 was going to be stuck in this tracking trip. They are 22-3. They are flying for 6 furlongs.
Yeah, it's definitely a fast pace. I mean, boy, Tap It to Win sitting the absolute garden spot behind these dueling leaders.
And you can even see here come the 1s coming up a little bit, the 8. I mean, there's going to be a lot more than just these top 4 when it comes down to the end of it.
Yeah.
The 3 is going to come 4 wide here.
Yep. And my top pick, the 3, is going to benefit from this speed duel. And we're going to go 3-11-5. Well, 3-11-1 maybe. The 1 is coming fast, but yeah, tap it to win. 3-11-5-1 is that finish. I'll fight Dempsey out the back.
So we look at this race, and not saying this is a weak favorite, but if you break down the race, multiple speeds, has never been in a speed duel before, declining race last time out, needs to drop into state.
Why are you saying that, fucking retard?
The 11, the only horse that's ever won off a speed duel, hangs on for second to a horse that just runs absolutely garden behind three speeds. The race was over at the half-mile pole when the 3 was set behind them.
Yeah.
There's nothing. Now, how do you fix this when you're betting? 3 at 5-1, perfect trip or whether or not, unless if you think the 4 is going to win 30% of the time or more compared to the other horses, it's just tough.
Yeah. Yep. Sean Alvarez, 3 was big for him. He's in the BC low ratio. He's trying to get a second entry to the NHC qualifier tomorrow. So, hey, I mean, at 5-1, that 3 was a lot of value, no doubt. No doubt there. In the contest, how did that go for you, Spencer?
I should look on my phone here as I stretch down real quick. Let me see if Mike ever did get back to me. It looks like he did. He got back to me with a huh.
In our matchup, Ryan McCarthy did have the 3, so that kind of hurts me. I don't know where the other 2 are necessarily sitting now, and the fact that the horse that I had in this, the 7, got out of the gate sideways, out the back, just always seemed to be climbing the entire time. No finish. Stephen Parrott had the 4. I'll fight Dempsey, set a fast pace, out the back. Tough race for all of us. Looking in the contest, those who had the 3, Sean Alvarez had the 3, Bob Locke had the 3, Trackside Mike had the 3, Cotty Collins had the 3. Looks like there is a Spencer Luganbuehl who has the 3.
Mm-hmm.
Eddie C, who was on the stream last week with the 3. So quite a few with that 3. So yeah, that's definitely a nice pick by all of you guys. So hats off, nice job. Going into the last race, who did you pick in this last race, Spencer?
I'm 2-1. 2-1 in the contest. Like I said, this race, Trapezoid just seemed like the one. Mike just got back to me. I'm up 50 on Eddie. So we do have the 16 seed, or as we are 8 seed, beating the 1 seed opening weekend. I just kind of got off to a hot start. It's kind of hard to reel in someone who's 4 for 5, hitting the board out of the first 5 races. It's nice to get that nice little lead. So having the 3 in the last race, I will go back to it just because we had talked about other horses. In a contest like we had talked about, having a horse at 5-1 compared to 4-1 or 6-1, I just liked the horse because I thought it would be a solid price. And when you look at it at 5-1 to pay $12, I'll take the fact that maybe this horse might not come back and be 100%. But I only need him to win 2 times out of 10 for me to make money.
Yeah, and for me, I screwed the pooch on this whole deal. I thought the 3 and the 4 were going to take considerable amounts of money, which is the reason why I didn't put the 3 on there, because I didn't want a short price horse going into it. Knowing now that he went off at 5-1, yikes! I definitely definitely misjudged the tote board on that race.
Beatrice, the 3 wasn't even on my radar. Holy hell! Back to the drawing board. This is a horse that I think for beginning handicappers is difficult to find. It's knowing, it's knowing the cycles of horses. It's knowing the calendar, knowing that the first 2 races that he tried after the maiden win was 2 races for the Derby, and then they hard stop him, and then he ends up back in a place like this. They pretty much just gave the horse a freshening and just wanted to kind of get him his confidence back. I fully expect this horse probably, now, depending on what the buyer is, maybe a level 2 allowance or even a nice little listed stake next time out for this horse.
Yeah, and and also looking at the back class, looking at the horses that he faced, stakes runners like Complexifier, Enforceable, Governor Morris, Maxfield, Silver Prospector, even Fighting CB,
man,
who has
it's
been
snowing fucking
in a
hard.
bunch of
Holy
stakes,
shit.
I believe on the grass though, and same with South Bend. But
I gotta see
I
a
mean,
picture of this. I don't
he
care if I
definitely
die.
had
It's fucking
faced
crazy. Hang on.
some really quite classy horses, which was the reason why I liked him, just based on that. So yeah, it is tough to know, especially with these connections, whom really aren't all about rushing horses. It was hard to know how he was going to be with that freshening, but seeing those 3 bullets on April 9th, 18th, and 24th really did make me believe that that the horse was going to be fit enough for the race at least.
Dennis asked if we think the horse would be good back on the turf. That first race looked really good. I think that the turf is always something the horse can do, being able to tap it, but Magdalene Oro tap it just screams to me long on the dirt.
Yeah,
just
110%.
It's like downpouring snow right now.
110%. I think too. The other thing is,
what is going on with our team?
Moving forward, there's probably going to be more dirt races that this horse is going to be able to enter into than the turf, and being that attractive, and I mean attractive pedigree, you're going to want to get some black type in them first. So it'll be good to get some stakes in this horse moving forward.
Good luck to you, Sean, in your pick for 1, 3, 6, 10. I wish you had the 2 on there. Good luck with your picks also in the BCBC and the AHC as well.
Yeah, that's huge. I really wish he had the 2 on there as well, because that would make me feel a little better. But with my pick 4s that I put in, I got $4 live into this race. So I'm with you. Let's go. Let's up with this 3.
Well, what did you not like about the 2, Sean? Let us know, because now I'm curious. And let's talk about this race. Marshall, when you're looking at these optional starter allowance hybrids, what are you looking for when it comes down to the class?
Lance,
yeah, I mean, these races are tough. They really are. When you look at the conditions, you're looking for 3-year-olds and up, which have started for a claiming price of 8,000 or less since May of last year, or a claiming price of 10,000. So these types of races are kind of difficult, just because you're going to have horses like even the one who is coming out of starter allowance company and the like. So, but you look three races back and he's running in a $7,500 claimer. So for me, I'm looking for horses that had kind of dropped down the claiming ladder to that kind of 8 to 10,000 range, and that really showed them a good account for themselves. Looking at that, Pepe the Hunter, who was the morning line favorite, had raced for 12.5 and got second by a length and a quarter. Came back on the drop for Safi Joseph and won, drawing away in a claiming 8. Then claimed again by these connections. The workout report on the 3 was encouraging, that the horse was keeping his form coming into this race, but it's just so hard with these connections, knowing how prepared the horse is going to be coming into it. What were your overall thoughts with Pepe the Hunter?
Like we talked about earlier when we were going through our tickets, I just when you see multiple claims, it's always good. Obviously, when you see claims from 2 of the 3 that are, obviously we have El Juicer Jorge Navarro, and then we have, Richard Arnold, who I don't know much about, and then we go to Safi Joseph, who everyone seems to think that as soon as Navarro and them got picked up, that he would be the next one to get picked up. That has not happened yet. Obviously, he has been ice cold since the FBI raids. And now he loses this horse for 8. Well, to win by 4 last time and improve 5 points, when you just look at the odd change from 5 to 2 to 4 to 5, this is always going to be the type of horse that I'm trying to beat. Now, obviously, jumps into this race. When you go from a top barn, percentage-wise, whether they're doing crooked crap or whatnot, to a barn like this, something is changing. They're changing the feed. They're changing everything. For me, and I'm not even sure what this horse opened up yet. I can look real quick, but he's not even the favorite.
5 to 1.
And listen, we've talked for days, me and you, Marshall, about how stupidly bad these Gulfstream Park lines are. To the point where I'm not even handicapping with lines anymore at this point.
Yeah, and that was kind of the hard part going in, is you had to know that this horse wasn't going to be 9 to 5 in this race. It's just far too competitive, with quite a few horses. Now, granted, looking at the buyer speed figures, the 3 does hold a very strong hand with the buyer speed figures, especially last out of 85. I think if Pepe the Hunter ran even 3 back, that 84 and the claiming 6250, it's over.
I got one more and I'm done.
But it's hard to know that this horse is going to actually hold his form coming into this race. So
I don't like that game mode.
It's tough. That's why ultimately I landed on the same horse that you did with Trapezoid. I just felt, the race last out, really had a slow pace in that race, and it really was to his detriment. Still was able to close well, to finish 3rd just behind Dexter Road,
Probably not,
who's in this race as well. So I really did like that effort, and even the effort 2 back in the claiming 12-5. Being able to close
New Jersey's under lockdown
as much as he did in that race with Jairo Rendon on to win that claiming 12-5. I mean, that's claiming 12-5 in class in this race is big.
I know.
What do you think about Edgard Zaya staying on, and where do you think this horse is going to be positioned?
I think it's a big positive, and this is why. When I don't know much about the connections and who the top rider is and stuff like that, I like to see as much stuff stay the same as possible. I don't mind. I don't think a top rider was ever going to jump on this horse.
You're going back for it.
So I'd rather see the guy who is 13% the journeyman stay on than going to, Meneses or one of those guys who are just 4%. And it just, for some reason, Edgar didn't want to ride the horse anymore. I think the slow pace was right. I think first time out you get the win at 12-5 and he puts him in this level. Maybe that race was a little bit strong. I love to see that he was the favorite in that last race. And now we're going to get a higher price on him. It's just that horse was liked at that level. I don't know how many races like a run with this class definition, but if he was the favorite for 1, he's probably going to fit in with most types that are trying at this level. And it shows again when he's 7-2 here, just 1 click off of the favorite.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And especially when you're looking at the will pays for the double, the 2 is second for the will pays there, and even looking at the pick 5, the 2 is second. Yeah. So it is interesting to see that for the will pays, it's very consistently Pepe the Hunter in first with the lowest will pays. Then it goes Trapezoid, except for the pick 4, in which Trapezoid is lowest for the pick 4. Yeah, very, very interesting.
And obviously, I don't think Gulfstream has ever done this. They never show the final odds for the pick 6.
Nope, they do not show the wills for the pick 6. So, the pick 5 and the lowest is paying $32.15 for 50 or for $1.
Okay.
Which feels low.
My second choice in the contest was going to be the Robert, the 1, Joel, coming off of what it was the race 2 back to 12-5, now winner for a lifetime. There's nothing past that for that condition for people who we obviously know are new in the chat. Once they get to now winner 4, that's as high as they can go. Now they have to open claiming against other tough competition. That race really ends up being more like a 62-5 open claimer.
Mm-hmm.
Break it down. And so they go from that, they put him in the starter at Parks, and now they ship him down here. Presidio Ramon is one of the better players at Parks. claiming wise, everything. If he's going to ship a horse down to Gulfstream, this horse has got something. Not only that, Joel jumped on.
Yeah, and that's kind of the interesting thing with the Robert. Going from some of the Parks riders, Silvera and Sanchez, to Joel Rosario is a big, big leap up. Now, the question for me to you is, how would you treat the class that he's faced, given that those races are at Parks?
So quiet?
And
There
we're
we
obviously at Gulfstream Park right now. But what do you think about that class that he's faced?
Well, he's 1-for-1 at Gulfstream, and he was a 51 buyer.
Hey, let's go!
They're facing something a little bit weaker than what is needed here to win, which I think is probably going to be, high to mid, probably a high 7 to a low 8. Probably will get it done here today. So when you look at it, it's definitely a rising class. But I think the trainer intent to ship for a race where the purse is $18,000 compared to whatever the allowance 75 purse would be, which is probably, it might be as much, it might be a little bit less. This is obviously not the biggest jump in purses, maybe. But to ship a horse down to a premier meet away from Parks, serious trainer intent here on the one, and it shows down to 9-2.
Now, how do you take into consideration, with COVID-19 going on and there not being very many tracks that are open, especially there are no tracks open in the Northeast. How do you take that into consideration with a horse like this, where, I agree that I think Guadalupe Preciado is trying to get, a good race under this horse's belt in a class that he fits. At the same token, it makes me pause and think, well, maybe he's only shipping down here because it's the only track racing other than Tampa down here on the East Coast. So what are your thoughts on that ultimately?
This might also be one of the better horses in his barn. I'm not saying that Parks has like a bunch of stake winners down there, but usually what you want to find is a consistent, higher stake level type competition or lower mid-grade level like this would be.
He's still spotted by.
He just broke his non-winner for a lifetime, first time out for the barn. They then put him in a 75, where he gets his doors blown off him, but it was also closing into a slow pace, and he was,
Neptune over here,
as Marshall likes to say, miles out the back. So I think that this might just be a spot for him. Obviously, the 51-1 workout GLS. Somebody will tell me what that is. I'm guessing it's a private training barn.
Fletcher, I can shoot at.
1 out of 4. That's not the fastest for 4 furlong work. This type of horse, to me, just coming off multiple claims, might just be one of those that they are trying to get a race into, because I don't think Parks is opening up anytime soon, from what I've heard.
Yeah, I haven't heard that they've even tried to motion to get anything open in the Northeast. Yeah, the only track that I saw that was opening was Delaware Park.
Yeah.
So interesting to see 10,650 live tickets.
And I will announce this.
For the Pick 6.
A mandatory Pick 6 May 14th pool for Golden Gate Fields. Estimated pool will be $2 million. So we have another mandatory Pick 6 coming up this week. Thank you, Stronic Group.
Yeah, first bet. Let's go.
First bet, Golden Gate ever. My dad used to love playing Golden Gate. Russell Bay is obviously one of the best jockeys out there. I mean, guy won it 38% every year. Feel like I was watching Deshaun Parker get him out in the air. Is there anybody else who are interested in this race? Because there's a lot of horses, obviously. We have, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's just 10 horses. I couldn't come up with much for the others that just even maybe want to take a swing at.
Yeah, I mean, the 6, who's the favorite at 7-2 right now, coming out of a claiming 16,000, being jumped up from the claiming 8,000 the race before in the N1Y class. What do you do with that? I mean, you get the jockey switch from Rajiv Mirage to Irad Ortiz. You have pace, so Irad's going to put this horse on the lead. That class, the class hike from 8,000 to 16,000 is big.
Yeah, it's a pretty big jump. I mean, if we just break it down from when Falcone stopped training the horse to where we got under Monica Magui, 16, 16, 16, 8 non-winner, 1, 16. Okay, so let's break down the races. Fast pace, first time out under Rajiv, out the back. Fanny Olsen gets on the horse, gets a slow pace, runs a really nice race. Third time out, 68. Fanny kind of tried to do the same thing at a normal pace. It was much faster pace that day. These are all on the turf, by the way.
Neptune.
No bueno. Then they go to the dirt. Edgar wins on the horse with a 75 after they drop him in class down to 8. So to me, it tells me this horse definitely needs a lower level in class and probably needs dirt. Why they keep going back to the turf with this horse, I do not know. It's always nice to see Irad jump on. Irad has 4 wins today. The horse is 7-2. If you're looking for a way to make money, I've always said this: anything over 5-2 is usually a good win price, and try not to talk anybody over a horse that's going to pay $10.
Yeah, the last time out, or the last win this horse had, was going a mile on the dirt, Gulfstream Park. Today, about a mile on the dirt, Gulfstream Park. Do you take that into consideration at all, or with this horse, or do you think that he's just getting wildly bet because Erad has been, winning races left and right?
Irad too, but I mean, if we just look at it real quick, I mean, we can just talk about every single horse for the most part. I mean, we know 12-5 non-winner 4 was the last win for the 1. The 2's last win was open 12. The last win for the 3 was open 8. The last win for the 4 was open 8. Open 8 for the 5. Now the 6 is open. It's not open 8. It's 8 with a condition.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Which is the lowest last winning class out of all of the previous horses.
And it was a 75. Now the horse does have an 83. Wrong surface. Way good pace setup.
Mm-hmm.
This horse can run 83 this time. The answer is no. Could he improve off the 75? Sure. Is Irad a better rider than Rashif Murad and Edgar Prado? Probably. The trainer intent is there. First of all, I'll talk about this too. Right now, if you play the favorite, you win $10. That does not happen in every race. This shows how hard this race is.
Are you kidding me?
And now it actually is going down to 7-2 on our 2 for trapezoid. If you want the 4, or if you want the 6 at 4-1, this is the absolute opportune time to take him. You don't like it. You tell me why.
I just think that price is way too short for me. Looking at the class of, again, the previous 5 horses, all won in class ranks that are harder than this horse had, and being 2 lengths off of a fast pace in that N1Y also leads me to believe he had a setup. So that also kind of makes me leery. Now, granted, the Queen's Jewels ran against Dexter Road, and who finished 3rd. Who also the 2 had faced last time out, the 2 had finished 2.5 behind in a really poor pace setup for the 2. So it's kind of interesting to see how they've all kind of faced each other in this race. What do you do with the likes of the number 10 Starship Apollo for Murat Sincall, and Luis Saez jumps back on?
So came out of this race last time, 75. God, doesn't it just seem like that's the number? 1452, polished pro. As we like to say, don't win 14 without being really good at your job. I don't like that he's going sprinter route, 5% for the training. And I also don't like the fact that he got claimed 2 back. It did improve the buyer, but Saez wasn't the horse back then. His last win was a short pace for 12 on a sloppy track.
Yeah, and how many of those 14 wins did Starship Apollo have going this distance?
Who am I detected by?
Nada. And that to me is a big red flag for this horse ultimately. When you've raced 52 times and you've only raced a distance 4, that leads me to believe that you don't want to go this far. And the trainer knows it, but at this condition, maybe this is the only race that's been available for the horse to come into, and ultimately, whatever comes up as far as the condition book is concerned right now, you have to take whatever you're given. And with this horse, it feels like that is exactly what they did. Now the horse is 7-1. so is taking a slight nibble on the tote board. It looks like our 2 trapezoid goes favorite at 7-2. Your thoughts on 7-2?
Okay with it. I think in a race like this, 7-2. I know it seems light, but you also have to realize in these types of races, no one knows what the hell is going on right now. I mean, we had a favorite at 4-1, which is a $10 horse. These races happen. If you're watching Gulfstream for the whole week, what is it, Thursday through Sunday? This is probably the race you'll see it at. How many times a favorite at 7-2? And just to get back on the Starship Apollo thing too, if you look at through, I have the last 10 races. I know usually you have through the last 12. The horses won 3 times.
I should have backed out of there instead of.
And the trainer is not good at stretching out horses.
Yeah.
Want to take him at 7-1? The horse is all yours. No bueno for me. And that's what this game is all about. It's about opinion. It's about figuring out, not so much, it's so hard. Who do you like in this race? I like the 3-4-1. Okay, well, what odds do you like the horses at? And nobody can answer that anymore. Nobody wants to tell you what their actual price is.
Anyway.
As the 3 now goes co-favored with our 2. It's going to be that type of weird thing where you now have to kind of get into the mind of the racetrack. If this 3-horse wins this race, you might think, I can now look at everything that gets claimed off of Safi. If you did that over the last probably 30 races, I don't even know if Safi had a rider or a race on there. Like, talk pretty much about like how when you find a bias, or not even a bias because that would be more for the racetrack, but just finding a thing like where it's a post position at Belmont's bad, or a certain thing at Canterbury where a trainer can't lose at certain levels. When you kind of find that, what exactly do you look for to see if it's still going or if it's starting to fade away?
Yeah, and that's the trickiest thing ever, is to ride the steam like that, so to speak. I think that there are angles that you can perennially use, for me at Canterbury and basically any track in the Midwest. Diodoro first half the claim, bueno. Horse gets claimed off of Diodoro first off, no bueno. No bueno. So I tend to look for general things like that, and in the end, it's all about doing your homework when it comes to those things. You have to look at trainer statistics, not only for the racetrack, but over a range of dates, whether it's the last 2 weeks, whether it's the last month, and see, in the last month he wasn't doing good, but the last 2 weeks, he's really kicked it up. Or maybe in the last month he was doing good, but the last 2 weeks is bad, so he's kind of cooling off. So you really need to pay attention to those things. The unfortunate part is it's kind of hard to do queries like that ultimately. So it's just one of those things that you have to have dialed in and kind of have in the back of your mind moving forward. So it's tricky to be able to handle those things. And most of the time when it comes to those sorts of trends, it's more anecdotal than actual physical evidence. And when it's just, hey, I remember this trainer's good at this. Yeah. You can get in big trouble with that.
And not only that, don't try and do 7 trends at once. Take the first 3 jockeys. Take the first 3 trainers. I'm going to follow each. I'm going to look at each and every one of them extra close this week. Mark down notes. Chad Brown was 8 for 8 on the turf. Well, he's normally supposed to be that, so I wouldn't call that a big trend. Whereas if, I think it was in the Mark Kramer book, he says a hot trainer, he has to hit 2 horses each week that are 5-1 or higher. Well, Chad's never going to do that because he's going to have all the underlays. The reason you're making money and trying to find hot trainers is that that's a $10, $12 horse each time.
Yeah.
So I think actually 1 week in Saratoga last year, there was one hot trainer 1 week, and it was Chad, who won 2 turf stakes at over 5-1. And he ended up the one hot trainer that week, and everyone's like, he hits an underlay every time. Well, not if you're playing his horses at 5-1, you're not.
Right.
So, try and find a trend. Track a certain distance for a week. Figure out, if I go back and look at the result chart, every single time the horse wins, he's not coming from, 3 or 4 lengths back. Well, okay. Now you can cut every single closer out that you find that is more than 4 lengths back, and you don't have to look at the speed as well.
Yeah.
Okay. trying to find these horses that are in between as they are heading to the gate for the penultimate race. I want to thank everybody as well who has been hanging out with us. Sorry for the short stream. Sorry for lack of guests. This is kind of like not a last second thing, but we were just trying to figure out, do we take the week off? Do we not? And we like being with you guys every week, so here we are.
And yes, Dennis, I agree. The number 5 Il Ferioni will be dead last and is basically dead last in every one of his races. And Pete Aiello will make sure it's well known that he is dead last multiple times. And especially flying down the stretch, that 5 does have one crazy kick, but because he's 30 lengths back only. So, Dennis, I hope your 5 does come in and we get this 2 second. That's cool with me.
What do you need here for the pick 4?
For the pick 4, I need the 2 and 3.
So let's try and get the 2 home. Let me put the exclamation point. Ooh, do we need the 3 though for Sean? I think we need the 3 for Sean for the pick 4.
Yep.
Okay, I'm rooting the 3 home. I will root the favorite home for you guys. I already crushed Eddie C in this contest. I look forward to facing either Philly Boy or Gino in the next round. I'm not really sure who's ahead in that matchup, but definitely looking forward to what is about to happen here. Good luck to everybody betting. Good luck to you if you're still alive in the pick 6. I hope you have hit a masterful ticket as they leave the gate.
I didn't see what the run up is on this race, but the first quarter is it looked far more contentious than what that first quarter says. I think something's goofy.
It's always goofy if it's Gulfstream Park.
Well, the first quarter went in 27. Nah.
Okay.
I don't believe that for a second.
So
the 9, the 10, and the 11 are still battling each other coming around the turn. You have the 8 and the 9 and the 3 behind. The 3 is floundering, unfortunately. The 2 is coming around.
Has a lot of work to do. 50 to the half. Can't be right.
Yeah, I don't buy that for a second. The 2 is cutting through a seam here. Can we get this 2 up? No way. Wow. We get a 25-1 winner on the number 4. Are you talking to me? The number 1, the Robert, comes in probably second. It was tight between the 1 and the 2. Wow. How many of you out there had that 4 on your tickets? Hoo-wee.
Seemed like the 2 got a little bit gun shy to go through that last little hole.
Yeah.
I mean, nice little ride out by the 4. I should make sure real quick. I don't know if you have the sheets up. I'm pretty sure Eddie did not have the 4, but if you can look that up real quick, I would appreciate it.
Eddie had the 1.
Eddie had the 1. So we are safe. We're moved on. Easy day at the office. This race was tough. Tough race. Yeah. And this is what happens. This is why, the 3 ended up going off of 5-1 and nowhere.
Yeah. I mean, the 3 coming around the turn was in real big trouble. The 4 coming out of a 4th place effort in an optional claiming 10, the same exact level, running against the likes of Dexter Road and Trapezoid, which was the 9 and the 2, and it just so happens to get the right trip this time to pull out the win for Jay Trehouse.
Very, very interesting. Any final words for you, Marshall?
No. I mean, it was a contentious race to begin with, and this last one in the payout leg, and it definitely ran to that. Finishing 4-1-2, and the 11 at 50-1 comes in 4th. Dennis said that he had the 4 as his second choice. Dennis, you're a better man than I.
Dennis, you need to have that horse as your first choice to do correct things in this contest.
Yep, and Sean says that he thinks that he got his second NHC qualifier seat and breakage for the BCBC. So congrats to Sean Alvarez for that. The third by Trapezoid, I think, is gonna be tough for me. I think it'll be really close between me and Ryan McCarthy. I don't think Stephen Pear in my matchup. Yeah, he had the 3 going into this race, so we'll see if the underdog meteorologist can get past the likes of the SoCal sensation Ryan McCarthy. Um, Moving forward in the tournament, I'd like to thank everyone who watched the stream. We appreciate the views more than you can ever know. Make sure to hit that like and subscribe button so that way you know when we are going to go live in the future. Any final thoughts for you, Spencer Lugan-Buell?
What a blast these last couple of weeks have been. Obviously, we just kind of were goofing around one day. You told me about Streamlabs. We said, okay, let's do it. We had, fun first week. We probably bit off a little bit more than we could chew, so we said, okay, we'll split it up the next week. Had some fantastic guests. We actually hit 2 pick 5s back to back. We didn't really play any picks this week going ahead, just doing the late pick 4. Let me know. Send me messages. Send stuff to the Gallup on what you want to see next week, whether it is Southern California or Churchill. I'm sure both, as long as Southern California is going to run. I'm sure Churchill will have a full day of racing next Saturday. Marshall, sad to not see you there. I'll have to kind of take over the hosting duty and find some guests. We will see you next week. Talk to you guys whenever on Twitter. Thanks.